If you've recently inherited money, property, or an estate, this moment may feel more complicated than you expected. For high net worth families, inheritance is rarely just a financial event. It's often emotional, overwhelming, and can come with unspoken pressure to act quickly or to make the right decision as soon as possible. Today's goal is not to tell you what to invest in or what to walk through specific products or strategies. Instead, we want to help you think clearly about the first year after inheriting wealth, what truly matters, what doesn't need to be rushed, and how to avoid some of the most common and costly early mistakes. Inherited wealth is a transition, not a transaction, and how you handle the first year often shapes everything that follows. One of the most common mistakes we see is moving too quickly. That might look like selling assets immediately, completely overhauling an existing portfolio, or acting on advice before fully understanding the broad picture. Another common mistake is responding to outside pressure from well-meaning family members, friends, or even professionals before you've had time to build confidence in your own understanding. And finally, there's the temptation to treat inherited wealth as found money rather than long-term capital. When that happens, decisions tend to focus on short-term enjoyment or quick changes instead of how this wealth fits into your longer-term plan. These mistakes don't come from bad intentions. They usually come from a place of uncertainty and pressure. The reality is that few inheritance-related decisions are truly urgent, and patience, especially early on, is often the most important strategic advantage.
Before any planning can happen, clarity has to come first. That starts with understanding what you actually inherited, not just the dollar amount, but the types of assets involved. For example, let's look at two very different but very common inheritance scenarios. Imagine person A inherits a primarily liquid portfolio, cash, brokerage accounts, and a portion held in inherited retirement accounts. The assets are relatively straightforward, highly liquid, and easy to value. Decisions here tend to center around taxes, investment strategy, and integration into an existing financial plan. Now imagine person B. They inherit a very different mix: real estate, a minority interest in a family business, private investments, and assets held in trusts. On paper, the value may be very similar, but the complexity is entirely different. Liquidity is limited, timelines matter, and decisions often involve other family members or trustees. Both individuals inherited wealth, but the path forward for each is completely different. That's why your first step should be building a complete and accurate inventory of what you own. You can't make informed decisions without understanding the full landscape. One of the biggest misconceptions around inherited wealth is assuming that all assets can be treated the same way, and that's just not true. In reality, liquidity varies widely. Tax treatment differs significantly. Some assets come with required timelines or restrictions, while others allow for flexibility and patience. Some decisions are reversible, while others are not. Understanding how each asset behaves before making changes helps preserve flexibility and reduces the risk of unintended consequences.
Navigating inherited wealth is rarely something you should do alone. A CPA helps you understand the tax implications and ensures compliance with tax law. An estate attorney helps interpret documents, structures, and responsibilities. A trustee or executor provides fiduciary oversight when applicable. A financial advisor, like me, plays a coordinating role. At its core, my role is about representing your interests, helping ensure that investment decisions, tax considerations, and long-term planning work together rather than in isolation. Especially during transitions like inheritance, having someone focused on the full picture is critical. It's also important to acknowledge the emotional side of inherited wealth. Grief, guilt, pressure, or uncertainty are common, even when an inheritance is expected. Family dynamics can shift, roles may change, and confidence rarely arrives overnight. Giving yourself permission to pause, emotionally and financially, is not avoidance. It's often the most thoughtful and prudent first step. With that foundation in mind, we can talk about how to prioritize the first year.
A helpful way to think about the first year after inheriting wealth is through a simple framework: pause, preserve, and plan. Pause major decisions to create space for clarity, preserve capital and flexibility while you learn, and then plan intentionally with context and confidence. This framework isn't about doing nothing. It's about sequencing decisions in a way that reduces risk and improves long-term outcomes. Inherited wealth often forces you to answer a question you may or may not have faced before. What is your role with this capital? For many people, that role includes three components: stewardship, spending, and growth. Stewardship for protecting and respecting the asset, spending to align resources with values and lifestyle, growth to position wealth for long-term objectives. There's no single correct balance, but clarity there helps provide guidance for better decisions over time. That framework also helps clarify what actually needs attention early on.
While many decisions can wait, some items do require timely attention. These can include required distributions, tax filings and reporting obligations, insurance coverage, or near-term cash flow needs. These are not optimization decisions. They are risk management decisions. Addressing them early helps stabilize the situation and prevents small issues from becoming larger problems later. On the other hand, many major decisions benefit from patience. Portfolio redesigns, real estate restructuring, and significant lifestyle changes often improve with time and perspective. There is value in letting the dust settle. Time allows you to better understand not only the assets themselves, but also the tax implications, the liquidity constraints, and how these assets fit into your broader financial life. It also gives you space to understand your own priorities, what matters most to you, how you want this wealth to support your life, and what role you want it to play long term. The goal in the first year after inheriting wealth is not to do more. It's to see clearly. Clarity builds confidence. Confidence leads to better decisions, and better decisions compound over time. That perspective brings us to the core takeaway for this video.
Inherited wealth is not about doing more. It's about doing the right things in the right order. When approached thoughtfully, inheritance becomes a foundation for long-term financial well-being. In the next part of our series, we'll talk through the types of accounts and structures that inherited wealth often comes with and the specific rules and consideration tied to each one.